In order to finalize your pop art project, what you're going to need to do is make sure that you've saved every single variation you created of your object as a JPEG, which I went over in the last video. And then what you're going to do is you're going to be in Photoshop and you're going to say File, New, Blank File. And this is my pop art final. I'm going to call it that. And then for the size, I'm going to make it 13 inches. Make sure it says inches here. Sometimes it says pixels. Pixels are tiny, inches are large. So make sure it says 13 inches by 19 inches. And you want the resolution to be 150 pixels per inch. RGB color is fine and white background is fine. So now once I have that, again it's 13 by 19, I'm going to see this new document here. Now it's going to be a matter of placing in my JPEGs that I created. And so I'm going to do File, Place, and now I'm going to grab some of my variations. I'm going to click Place, and there's one of my first variations. The concept of what we're doing here is sort of as we did, as Andy Warhol did, where we're going to put multiple versions of our, like whatever icon we created, up on a page at a time. So what I'm doing right now is I'm scaling down my shoe so that it fits about half the page right now. And I'm going to hit the check mark. Now I'm going to go back up to File and I'm going to click Place again. I'm going to grab another variation. Okay, here's another one. So what I'm going to do now, what I'd like to do, I'm actually going to go up to the top here and I'm going to type in the size, just like I did on the last one, and that'll keep these exactly the same size, which is helpful and important. Okay. I can choose whether or not I want to leave space between them. I could have them side by side like that and then maybe just trim off this little bit right here, or I could, you know, drag this one over and leave some space. It's kind of up to you how you want to do that. I'm going to go back up to File and I'm going to click Place again. I'm going to grab my third variation here. Same thing, I'm going to make it, in this case I'm making mine 30%. Yours is going to vary depending on the size of your original image. I'm going to put this one here. I think I'm going to have all mine touching. I kind of like that effect better. So the question is, do I have to use all of my variations? The answer is no, you aren't going to use all of your variations. Your variations, you created a lot, so you have a lot to choose from. There are some differences here in that I could, you know, create. I can also repeat something. So if I really want another version of, like, let's say this one right here, I'm going to do a Command J. Remember we did that before. And when I did that, I actually created a second version of it. So I can actually repeat them too. Or you can go back up to File, Place, and select another version if you want. I'm going to work with the ones I have at the moment. You want to think about balance here. This is really important. You want things to be balanced in your final layout. So balance means that there's some repetition, that it doesn't feel like visually heavier on one side than another. So for instance, something I might consider doing, I'm going to place in one more of my shoes here, my variations, and again I'm going to type in the size up here so I can keep them consistent. And use my move tool to drag this. Now on its own, this isn't such a bad thing. You know, this layout's okay, but the problem with it in terms of balance is that you've got this really big green portion of this background, and yet there is a little bit of green here, which is great, but it feels kind of like the red and the green backgrounds are sort of just randomly thrown in. You have a few options here. I could scale all of these down and then add some more repetition. So if I wanted to do that, if I hold Shift and click on each of the layers, it selects them all over here, and then I can actually scale all of them down by dragging like this all at once so they become the same size. And then what that allows me to do is then go back in and maybe I can make a duplicate copy of the green and put it somewhere else in this layout. So maybe I will drag it to the top here and try putting it over here instead of that one. So I really want to play around with balance here. This is super important when you're laying these out. That's why you have so many versions to work with, so that you can truly balance out your composition. And so I think I just need to take this, I think this one right here, oops, going to click on this one, and I'm going to drag this one down. And so now what I also want to do is make sure these are nice and lined up, that they're not one hanging over the other. They're all kind of in a row here. So now that I have them all like this, what I can do is I can now crop this so I can get rid of the white. And so I'm going to use my crop tool to do that. I'm going to just, your crop tool might default to like a certain aspect ratio, a certain size. So you can just go up and say no restriction up on this menu, and that way you can drag it to whatever size you need to make it. So I want to trim off the white basically. And once I've trimmed off the white, then I have my final pop art here, and I can go up to File. I'm going to go up to File here, and I'm going to save this. I'm going to change it to a JPEG format. And this is Pop Art Final, and then I'm going to hit Save. This is then the version that I want to upload. Before I upload this, I want you to look carefully at the rubric for the evaluating for this work so that you know exactly what's expected and how you'll be graded.